Hello and welcome to number 6 in the series of Kemano Completion Project news videos. In this quarter's progress report, the tunnel boring machine has arrived and begun work on its 16 kilometers of water tunnel. Underground, the first phase of excavation has just been completed on the new powerhouse. And we get a chance to meet Malcolm Snoddy, construction manager of the Kemano Completion Project. In our first feature story, we follow the tunnel boring machine from its refit in Washington State to its mobilization in Kemano. Then, a feature profile of Canadian Helicopter's operations on the Kemano Completion Project. They've been working with Alcan in this area since the early 1950s, and for good reason. Their service and safety record is impeccable. That's coming up, but first, here's our progress report to July 1990. The big event this spring was the arrival and mobilization of the tunnel boring machine. To mark the occasion, everyone from the village of Kemano and the construction camps was invited to celebrate at Heretsky Camp. This provided an opportunity for a close look at the monster mountain eater before it disappeared underground for more than a year.
As one source, and then they go to an independent source.
Gary Davey and his crew from Power Mountain Contractors were inundated with questions from kids and grown-ups alike. Obviously, from the amount of time they spent with their visitors, Davey and his crew take a lot of pride in the work they do with this machine.
We're very pleased with the turnout. This was kind of a spontaneous idea that we came up with. We had a lot of people showing interest, dropping down here at the work site on their own free time and asking questions. By having a day, we get everybody out, see the machine, be able to discuss it. So as conversations come up in the future, they know a little bit more, but it also keep them out of my hair as I get ready to move the machine underground. So I'm trying to get two things done at one time.
While the tunnel boring machine was being readied for its move into the mountain, the operating crew were also moving into their new quarters. Heretsky Camp has been completed with 2 additional double-decker bunkhouses and the kitchen dining recreation complex formerly at Sawakin Camp. New 6-person units are also being completed to accommodate supervisory staff. With tunnel boring operations now underway, the camp population will soon stabilize at 150 workers and support staff. Halfway down the mountain from Heretsky Camp, work on the 500-meter road is just wrapping up. Creating this access road to the work site at the top of the penstocks was a tough job. But contractor Emil Anderson overcame the obvious difficulties imposed by this terrain. The road now connects to the deserted camp under the old cable car line from the original Kemano project. Down below in Kemano, the arrival of spring weather was welcomed by young villagers. On the Victoria Day weekend, they were celebrating their own version of May Day, complete with a parade, a May Queen, and wailing sirens. Meanwhile, some of the parents were celebrating the completion of new homes in the village. Families of project and operations staff have now moved in. Work on the apartment complex across the street is also complete. The 24 2-bedroom suites were occupied in June. With the arrival of summer, there's a special treat for the golfers among Kemano Completion Project workers. The Kemano Community Association has invited project staff to use their golf course. For avid golfers like Bob Finlayson and Tom Cummins, this was welcome news.
Hey, we're not bad, partner.
It's up there.
A little snow on it, that's all right.
That's
now.
okay.
The course is open to project employees on Sunday mornings and on an invitation basis at all times.
Nice ball.
It's like a horse race on the golf course.
Who you are?
Meanwhile, back on the job, deep underground, the first stage of excavation for the powerhouse extension has been finished. The high-voltage cable, air supply, and tail race tunnels are busy with muck car traffic, hauling rock from the ongoing blasting. Because of the sensitivity of the generators next door, a massive barrier has been erected at the mouth of the extension. This is a double wall, offering protection from both flying rock and dust. Even so, much care and attention is given to each underground blast for the protection of the generators and the safety of the miners. So far, the effects of blasting so close to the powerhouse have been negligible. Contractor Foundation Abasco completed the powerhouse arches, and a new contract for the remainder of the powerhouse excavation will be let soon. The new maintenance center is undergoing additional expansion. Rock mucked from the tunnels is being hauled in as fill. This site is being leveled to become the future home for many of the contractor's trailer offices, which are now situated at Sawakin Camp. Trailers will soon begin moving onto this site. "20 kilometers from Kemano, down the transmission line and over the Kildala Pass, ATCO crews have finished installing the new Kildala camp. In 1991, workers at this camp will install a section of additional transmission line needed to carry the increased electrical load. Until then, it will be occupied by logging crews from Skeena sawmills, who have been contracted to log the marketable timber along the transmission line right-of-way. Adam Charneski explains.
Well, we're going to prepare this camp and finish whatever we have to do and turn it over to the logging contractor. And this camp will serve as his base for a total of 42 people. It's going to be in first-class condition when we do turn it over. And after that, in 1991, we hopefully will move in with a line contractor to remove the rest of the trees and whatever along the transmission line route.
Down at Kemano Bay, marine traffic is busier than ever. The new crew boat, the Wakwas, has been in service on the Kitimat to Kemano run since March.
Take your time, Mom.
All passengers will tell you how much they appreciate this vessel's speed and comfort. It completes the trip in under 2.5 hours. Complementing the new marine service are new dock facilities at Kemano Bay. These facilities include an extension to the existing Wakwas dock and a new marina for both work and pleasure boats. A few kilometers up the road, the new incinerator promises to discourage the local bears from their daily foraging in the dump. Finally, at Sawakin Camp, where most activity has taken place over this past year, development has tapered off. Work continues on the recreation center, and there's a new fire hall. For the most part, though, this camp will now remain much as it is for the duration of the project. With a history of major projects in northern Canada, the construction manager of the Kemano completion project, Malcolm Snoddy, finds himself facing a new set of challenges.
On this job, I guess it's really the sort of a lot of constraints. You're here with a big project. You've got limited access. You've got access by water, really, and it's a remote job site. You've got one end to the other, so it's long distances. A lot of constraints that you normally don't have on a job. Individual components here are something you identify on all jobs, but it's just when you put them all together with the constraints. We've got a constraint on camp space, we've got a constraint on getting material in and out. It takes a lot of good planning. Generally, we're running a little bit behind schedule on what we've done to date, but that's not critical, because in fact we've got a window to where as long as we get on schedule now, in fact, then we're not in trouble here.
Based in Vancouver, Paul Wolf, Bob Loader, and Kaz Yanka of the project management team are on site regularly. At least once a month, progress is reviewed with Malcolm and his construction management team and their counterparts from Kemano Power Operations. With the arrival of the tunnel boring machine, the Kemano completion project has moved into a major phase of development. Most of the infrastructure, the camps, transportation, and communication systems are operational. The big job now for management is ensuring the maintenance of objectives relating to safety, environmental protection, cost, quality, and schedules. Just outside of Seattle in Kent, Washington, there's a factory where they make big machines, monster machines that eat mountains. Hard rock miners accustomed to drilling and blasting their way through granite call them moles, but it's doubtful there has ever been a mole this large. With all its trailing gear attached, it weighs about 600 metric tons and stretches out to over 107 meters, roughly the length of a football field. If you wanted to buy one like this, it would set you back more than $5 million. And that's for a used one. Here, the machine is being prepared for delivery to the Kemano completion project. Power Mountain contractors of Burnaby, BC, are boring the second water tunnel from the Chaco Reservoir to the new penstocks at the Kemano Power Station, 16 kilometers away. The last job for this machine was on a similar hydroelectric project in California. At the Robbins plant, it was being tuned up and refitted with some modifications for its job in Kemano. The Robbins Company has been making tunnel boring machines since the 1950s, about 250 of them so far. Today they have 70 working around the world, including 3 tunneling under the English Channel. One of the modifications was to increase the size of the cutting head. Additional cutting wheels were added, and the diameter was increased by about 20 centimeters to 5.73 meters. New shielding over the top will prevent the hard Kemano granite from jamming the machinery. For a machine this size to chew its way through a mountain, it takes tremendous power.
This tunneling machine is powered by an electrical source. The incoming power is 13,200 volts, and it's transformed down to 480 volts to power the 7 250 horsepower motors. This total of 1,750 horsepower is then used to drive the cutter head at 9.3 revolutions per minute.
All right, here we go.
The employees of the Robbins Company are a specialized group of technicians. They take great pride in their work. When service is required on this machine, the same people who built it service it on site. To ready the tunnel boring machine for shipping, it was disassembled and loaded onto 47 flatbed trucks for transport to Vancouver. There, those components most vulnerable to saltwater damage were shrouded in plastic. The trailers were then loaded onto a barge for the long haul up the coast to Kemano. After months of modifications, service, and shipping, the machine arrived in Kemano on April 29th. By then, most of the groundwork was laid. The adit was tracked, ready for the tunnel boring machine to be pushed onto place. The muck dumping system was being prepared to carry the discharge of rock chips. Still, there was a lot to be done, mostly reassembling the machine as the components arrived at Horetsky. One additional modification was made to the tunnel boring machine. Power Mountain added 2 drills to facilitate the placement of rock bolts in the tunnel ceiling as the machine moves along. Once started, the tunnel boring machine is expected to progress approximately 28 meters a day, but the actual speed depends on the type of rock. The machine moves by making a series of 2-meter strokes. It bores ahead into the rock, then draws its back end up to the front, like an earthworm, ready to make the next stroke. Gary Davey of Power Mountain Contractors explains the daily routine.
The norm for operation is you run 3 shifts, but you start off your day shift with a complete maintenance checkup, which means that people progress up through the machine into the gap between the rock and the face, check out each of your bits, the bearings, the wear on the bit, change them as necessary. Meanwhile, behind the head, the mechanics are checking out all your hydraulics and readying the machine for its day's operation. This takes about 2 hours. Following that, the machine goes into operation, and then about every 2 hours, at the end of the head progressing 6 feet, you retract the head, individuals come forth into the front area here and again check it out. It's a continuous means by which you're checking out the bits and making sure that it is capable of excavating. It's constant work.
Each cutter head costs between $3,000 and $5,000, and Davey expects to change them often. This strict maintenance program is expensive, but the result of poor maintenance could be a lot more expensive and troublesome. This cycle repeats every day until the machine reaches the powerhouse penstocks, 8 kilometers downstream, in about a year. At that point, it will back out of the tunnel for a major overhaul. Then it's underground again, this time going the other way for the second half of the power tunnel. Following the intensive preparations, the tunnel boring machine was finally ready to move into the adit on May the 24th. And what a job that was. With a crowd of curious onlookers, the Power Mountain crew was faced with a rather stubborn machine. But with the addition of a 3rd locomotive and a little sand on the tracks for friction, the mole finally headed for the hole. Once the tunnel boring machine reached the rock face deep inside the mountain, the crews brought in the auxiliary equipment, the power supply, the muck clearing system, the dust evacuation equipment. After 2 weeks of operator training, the tunnel boring machine began its job in June. For the crews, tunnel boring is a lot faster and simpler than drilling and blasting. Even so, it's a long grind to Kemano. With Alcan operations in northwestern British Columbia, stretching from the smelter in Kitimat to the Kenny Dam 260 kilometers away, it's clear that efficient transportation is important. But with the pressing schedule and costs of manpower associated with the huge Kemano completion project, efficient transportation is critical. Flying over the region, it's evident this is some of the most rugged terrain in the country, mostly inaccessible by road. So it isn't surprising that one of the most popular modes of transportation is the helicopter, a machine capable of landing and taking off on a spot and traveling great distances quickly. In fact, helicopters have been an integral part of the history of Alcan's Kitimat Kemano project. During the first stages of the original project in the early 50s, the pioneering young pilot was Carl Agar. His passenger, Mr. R.E. Powell, then president of the Aluminum Company of Canada. This was one of the many flying surveys Agar, the Okanagan crop duster, would make over the pristine wilderness of northwestern British Columbia. And it was the beginning of an association with Alcan that would help make Okanagan Helicopters one of the largest helicopter companies in Canada, if not the world. The surveys soon gave way to the transportation of crews and equipment, then logging and other services vital to the completion of construction in Kitimat, Kildala, Kemano, West Tatsa, and the Kenny Dam. Okanagan Helicopters played a significant role then and continue to serve Alcan today. In August of 1987, Okanagan, along with two other helicopter companies, Sealand and Toronto, amalgamated to form Canadian Helicopters.
The cost, the environment, the security of the line. So why?
It was also a time when work was beginning on the Kemano completion project and a pioneering relationship was rekindled. Since 1973, terrace operations have been under the supervision of Dave Newman, who joined the company in 1970. A few of the key people behind the scenes in terrace include base engineer Bill Adams, a member of the team since 1966. The demanding job of scheduling flights is handled by Canadians Kathy Smith and her counterpart in Kemano, Alcan's Al Kubik. Over the years, their unblemished safety record speaks for the extraordinary care this team has provided under all kinds of conditions.
Of course, we're afflicted with north coast weather that can be very difficult at times. We get all kinds of weather conditions here, different times of the year. If we get good weather, we can go directly over the top of the mountains, direct to wherever we want to go, and if the weather is poor, well, we have to select other ways through various passes or around by the sea level route into Kemano. We just adjust for whatever weather we get.
Mostly we're involved on the Kemano base with day-to-day operations. We might be hauling fuel up to the 2,600 foot level for the generator. We're traveling back and forth to Kitimat and to Terrace, flying personnel back and forth, bringing various amounts of freight and mail in, that's priority. We have 4 Bell Jet Rangers that we use, and we also have an Special A-Star. For special projects, we can bring in anything up to the size of a Sikorsky S-61, and on special occasions we have access to a Sikorsky S-64 Sky Crane for heavy lift projects. We have attached to the terrace base right now, we have 5 pilots, including myself. We have a very stringent training program that the company provides, one of the best in the industry, in which we go through mountain training. That gives our pilots an advantage in an area such as this, because this is very mountainous and we're continually operating in unprepared landing sites and mountainous terrain and the winds and the weather that go along with that. Also, another of our strengths are that the pilots that we have operating in here from terrace are familiar with the area and the problems that the weather presents from time to time. We've enjoyed, in our association with Alcan these past 40 years, an unblemished safety record. And we feel that that's due largely to training of our flight crews. Another thing is our commitment to safety corporately in all aspects of our operations, maintenance as well as in flying. Our maintenance commitment is to very high standards. I don't see problems, I only see challenges. Challenges are more interesting than problems. We had an avalanche program last winter that we managed to meet, I feel, successfully. We had a helicopter dedicated to that project with a 30-minute call-up time. We also have the challenge coming up of mountain rescue techniques that we're developing for rescuing people that are injured on the construction project, particularly on the power line. I think Canadians meant a lot to the village of Kemano. They have no road out of here. You either go out by boat or you go out by helicopter. And we provide sometimes the only quick way, most times the only quick way out when you have someone sick or injured. And the people certainly appreciate this level of care that they can get.
Flying for Alcan is a demanding job, but it's not all serious work, as was evident at the May Day celebrations in Kemano. Aspiring young pilots were given a chance to handle the controls before taking off on a brief aerial tour.
When we start up, the motor, until you get 15% in, you light it off, so you bring a lot of air.
For Canadian helicopters in Alcan, flying this region is a job and a way of life. But for passengers and pilots alike, there's little chance of becoming bored with the beauty of this region, especially as seen from the air.